Greetings. Thank you for joining us for FM360's webinar on Emergency Response Management, a fundamental building block of a facility program. EOP management. One of the first steps in that is to validate your procedures once you have written them. That is very difficult to do in a live facility. So what I often do is we'll walk up to these systems and do kind of a mock run where you're not really activating switches or whatever, but you're at least going through the steps. Second, take advantage of any and every opportunity you have. If there is a scheduled outage or even an unplanned outage, to go and execute some of these EOPs. If there's a construction project, it's a great time to take advantage of the facility being offline so that you can perform and validate these procedures. Second, you communicate that these procedures exist. Where do you find them? Possibly you have them posted within the space where you would use them, or with technology these days, they may even be available on handheld devices. Educate. You have to educate your building operators and engineers on the procedures, how to use them, when to apply them, and then incorporate their feedback as well, and update. My recommendation is that you have a management process in place for the procedures, that you would update them or at least review them annually so that they are staying accurate, because needs change, system conditions change, criticalities change. Step 4, establish a communication plan. I start off with an escalation protocol. Who gets notified first, or how does that first person get notified? Is it through an alarm via the control system? Is it through a security desk or a service desk? Or is it possibly through an occupant? Once that first person is notified, who do they need to escalate it to? They contact the chief engineer. If they can't get a hold of the chief engineer, do they go to the facility manager? If they can't get a hold of the facility manager, they get to the director. But ultimately, you need to have a clear path so that somebody upstream knows what's going on that can then in turn communicate further upstream, because the last thing you want is for your CEO or your superintendent or for your mayor to find out about this emergency or event from the news online when they get called by a reporter saying, hey, can you tell us about this event? You don't want that to happen. You also need to identify a stakeholder liaison. Now, the stakeholder liaison shares a very difficult and a very special role. They act as that conduit of information, gathering information from the field, so the field personnel can stay active at resolving the issues there and also restoring services. They also then take that information and communicate that to the other stakeholders, such as business managers, department heads, and upper management, so that all those folks know what they need to know at the right time. And that the stakeholder liaison can also, I hate to say act as an interference, but at least keep those other stakeholders from getting involved in the field work so that those field personnel can execute what they need to do efficiently and effectively. A call list. You should have a call list that identifies all those stakeholders, all those people that are involved in the escalation protocol, and any other vendors or suppliers. They should have 24/7 numbers listed, and there also should be multiple numbers. If you can't get a hold of one person, let's say for a vendor or supplier, who's their backup? Who's number 2? I also recommend having 2 vendors and 2 suppliers for some of your critical systems and critical supplies, such as fuel. Procurement. How do you purchase some of those emergency supplies when it's 2 a.m. Christmas weekend? Because that's when the emergencies happen. Your AP folks, your accounts payable folks not around, your purchasing department's not around, so what do? You need to have a very clear process in place, whether that's having open POs, ability to use a corporate credit card, whatever it is, so that you can procure what you need in the middle of the night. Lastly, you need to update regularly. Personnel changes, positions change, different vendors, different suppliers. I recommend that you update your escalation protocol and call list, or at least validate them twice a year, if not quarterly. Step 5, prepare. You need to prepare your people. Do they have the appropriate training, not just on the procedures as we already talked about, but on the systems themselves? For example, you've got the building operator certification. It's a great course, and actually there's 2 courses that you could take and send your building engineers through. Or maybe training from the manufacturer. How about certifications? CPR, first aid, or maybe certain certifications from manufacturers as well. Do they have the right PPE? Do they know how to use it? Do they know where to find it? Second, safety kits. Do you have first aid kits? Where are they located? How about cleanup kits? Who's authorized to use them? AEDs, defibrillators. Where are those located? Do you have a maintenance program in place to take care of them as well? All important things that you can do to prepare for events. What about standby and temporary units? Do you have move-in cools that you could take into your network or server rooms, or possibly your data center to help out should you have your primary cooling go down? Do you have the right electrical connections to plug in those move-in cools in those spaces? Standby chillers and pumps, or even temporary units. Do you know where you could rent a standby chiller? How would you connect it? How would you pump the chilled water through your plant if you needed to bring in this unit? What about a generator? If you had to bring in a temporary generator, how do you connect it? Do you have quick connects? Do you backfeed it through your load bank connection? Those are the type of questions you need to answer now and have procedures written around those. Second, what about service providers and vendors? Do you have the contracts in place so that the vendors and service providers can come out and repair the systems in an emergent situation? What about disaster recovery and cleanup? If you have a major event that's regional, such as an earthquake, possibly even a large fire, as is typical in my neck of the woods, do you have a contract in place with a vendor that puts you higher up on their priority list? Because you will not be the only person calling them if you have a widespread event. Similarly, somebody like a Belfour or others that for disaster recovery and cleanup, they can mobilize hundreds of personnel and equipment to come help you take care of your disaster and to restore business as soon as possible. What about fuel delivery? When Hurricane Sandy hit, that was actually one of their challenges as well, was they couldn't get enough fuel to keep the generators running in New York City. They were having to bring fuel trucks from the Midwest and further to supply those generators to keep those emergency systems operating. What do you have in place? Do you have 2 fuel providers identified? Do you have them contracted and their contact information and so forth? Again, all things that need to work into your procedures and to your escalation and communication protocols. And then conduct drills. Practice, practice, practice. It is amazing what you learn when you run mock drills. Incorporate your fire department, incorporate your other emergency services so that we can all learn together on what to do in an event. And I guarantee you that communication will be one of your weakest links, and you will be amazed at what you uncover and some of the other things that you will have to go fix before you do your next mock drill, and hopefully get it fixed before your next emergency. In summary, why an ERM program? Again, the triple bottom line: financial, social, and environmental impacts. Number 1, know your business. You have to have a very clear understanding as facility manager of what matters in your organization and what those drivers are. And then in turn, number 2, know your systems. How do your systems support the business? What's critical? What's not? And then develop your EOPs, your emergency operating procedures, around those systems and around possible events. And then, of course, you have to have a very clear communication plan in place that folks know who's on first, who to talk to, and when to talk to them. and how to get a hold of them. And then lastly, prepare. Do you have the right training? Do you have the right material? Do you have the right contracts in place? And then rinse and repeat. Once you're done, you're not done. We live in a very dynamic world, and your buildings are changing all the time. Business drivers change. Employees change. Systems change. So we have to continually update and maintain our emergency response management program. Thank you for taking this time to sit through this webinar. I hope it was valuable to you. If you have any questions or need further assistance in helping with your emergency response management program, please feel free to contact me at john@fm360consulting.com or visit our website at fm360consulting.com. Thank you.